Hey, this is Eric, and thanks so much for joining me for this session on Google Screencast for Teaching and Learning. Before we get going, just a little bit of housekeeping here. First of all, I want to make sure you can get to the resource document that we're going to be pulling from today. That can be found at bit.ly/Kurtz-G Screencast, as in Google Screencast. That bit.ly link will take you to a document that looks like this. And that document has everything we're going to be pulling from. There's resources and links and directions and lots of good stuff in there. So you can always refer back to that later to be able to access any of the content that we're covering here. And of course, as the session's going on, to follow along with the different examples that I'm showing. Again, that's at bit.ly/Kurtz-G Screencast. All right. Well, hopefully that gave you some time to get settled in and get things queued up. Let's talk about what we're going to be looking at here today. So we're going to be talking about Google Screencast, which is a tool that, as of the recording of this training, came out almost a year ago now, and it's gone through a lot of development, is continuing to develop. We're going to start off with a quick overview of, well, what is it? What is this Screencast thing? And then we're going to launch it and use it to do a sample recording to show you how that works, how we can then edit that recording and share that out with others, and what it's like to view a completed screencast. And then I'd like to spend a little time talking about, okay, now that we know the nuts and bolts, and now that we know how it works, what could we do with it, and try to explore some ideas for how a tool like this could be used for teachers and for students. All right, so that's the plan. Let's go ahead and get on into this. So first of all, what is a screencast? Well, I think a good way to start is by saying what it's not, or what it's the evolution of. So Chromebooks have had a screen recorder for a long time. So that's not something new. We have, and we still do have, the old screen capture and recorder tool. You can get to that a bunch of ways. You can go down to the launcher in the bottom, or the system menu in the bottom right-hand corner. And from the system menu, there's a screen capture option. You can also press Shift, Control, and the Show Windows key to bring it up. And newer Chromebooks actually have a screen capture button on them. I'll probably just use my system tray down here. If I click on that, we can go ahead and come up here and see there's the screen. There it is, right there. There it is, the screen capture button. If I click that, that will pop that tool open. So that's probably the way I'm going to go to launch it here, although those other options are available as well. And again, this is the old tool. This is not what we're looking at here today, but just to set the stage to understand it, this is a great tool. It's a fantastic tool. It lets you take screenshots if you just want to take a picture. It lets you record a video of your screen. You can do the full screen, you can do a partial screen, you can do just a portion, and then you can go into your settings to control all sorts of things. So again, if I were to pull up that tool, go ahead and launch that real quick here, you'll see I can go from doing a picture to a video. I can do the full screen. I can do just a portion of a screen. I can just do a window. And then under my little settings gear here, I've got all sorts of options here. I can turn my microphone on or off. I can turn my camera on or off. I can decide whether or not I want to show the clicks and the keys as I press them. I can decide where I want to save the video that gets created. So really, this is checking a bunch of boxes. It's a fantastic tool. It's really nice. It's an easy way on a Chromebook to record your screen, to record your voice, to record your webcam, and to save it nice and conveniently right to your Google Drive. Okay, so that tool's been around for a while. What we're going to do, though, is look at what has come next. So you can still use the old screen capture tool, but now we have something called Screencast. The easiest way to explain it is it does everything that the old tool does and did, but it adds a couple of new things to it. So yeah, you can record your screen, record your webcam, record your voice. One thing you can do, though, that wasn't in the old version, is annotation. So you can annotate on the screen while you're recording. It's got some built-in pen tools you can draw on the screen. That's really useful. That's great to draw attention to something that you're speaking about. But then it also generates a transcript, which that's really slick. And so it's going to take everything you say, and it's going to make a transcript that gets packaged along with that recording. Now, that transcript can do a couple of neat things. One is it's able to be translated into any language by the end user. So it's going to be recorded in your language, but when somebody else is watching this, if they want to, they can switch the transcript into a language of their choice. So they can watch your video as you recorded it, but they can read the transcript in their own language. You can also use that transcript for editing purposes. And we'll see all of this here in a second, but you can use it to say, I made a mistake while recording. I want to trim out this portion. You can actually edit. You can skip portions of the transcript, which will then skip portions of the video. So it's a neat way to do some editing. All right. So that's, I hope, a pretty good explanation of the extra things that get added on here compared to the other traditional screen recording tool. Now, what do you need to be able to use this? By this point, I'd say most anybody with a Chromebook should have access to this. It required version 103, but I think we're up to like version 112 or 113 as of the recording of this. So again, it was about a year ago when this first came out. So chances are, if you've got a Chromebook, you are at version 103 or above. If for any reason you're not, though, that would certainly be an issue, why that wouldn't work. And of course, if you're using a school account, your tech admins can always turn things off. So it's possible that, it could have been turned off by the tech admins. Always talk to them if you're not able to find this. But key point here is this is a Chrome operating system tool. So Google Screencast is not going to be something you're going to use to make recordings on a Windows device. You're not going to use this to make recordings on a Mac. This is going to be used on a Chromebook. So you do need to be using a Chromebook to have access to it, which today is what I am doing. I am on my Chromebook here as I am making this recording here today. All right. So that's the requirement for it. Now, how do you get to it? Well, to get to it, you're going to go to your launcher button down in the bottom left-hand corner. And from there, you'll have Screencast hanging out there somewhere. Let's see if I open up my launcher. There it is right there. There's Screencast. I can give a click on it and boom, it's going to pop that open. And there's my Screencast tool. Excellent. Awesome. Now, once it does pop open, you'll see any existing screencasts you've had before, but there's also going to be a button there to do a new screencast as well that you can use to record a new one, which we're going to do here in just a second. Real quick overview of what we're going to see. It's going to be really, really similar to what we saw before. We're going to have the options to do full screen, partial screen, window, turn on our microphone or our camera or turn them off. All of those sort of things that we saw before, we're going to have those sort of settings. We'll also be able to move our camera around to the spot where we want it to be on the screen if we are including our camera. And we will have that annotation feature. There'll be a little pencil down in the bottom, and I'll illustrate this when we get to that spot. I'll show where that's at. But there'll be a little pencil down there, and that will let you turn on the marker tool, and you can change colors by right-clicking on it and picking another color, and you can clear them out with a normal left click, and that will let you start over again. And of course, there'll be a stop button when it's all done. So that's what it's going to look like. So let's go ahead and talk about using this. So what I'm going to do for my example, just to keep this real simple, I'm pulling up a website. This is Google Earth's time-lapse tool. And we're going to use this as our example. I'm going to record this for my real simple example here. And the idea is, let's say maybe I'm a science teacher and I'm wanting to create some instructional content for my students, and we're learning about glaciers. And I want to make a short little video showing the Columbia Glacier as it's been receding over the last several decades. Well, Google Earth Engine time-lapse is fantastic. It allows you to be able to see the satellite imagery that Google has collected since, I think, like 1984, and it plays it back like a video. So across the bottom, you'll see the years clicking by there. And then up here, we'll actually see the video that's created by all of those years of satellite pictures, so that you can see the effect that's happening. Of course, you can zoom in, zoom out, move around, go to different places on the globe, and so forth. Well, let's say I wanted to make a very simple little recording where I explained this to the students, and I'm going to use this with some instructional content. Okay, so with that pulled up, we'll just pull my screencast tool back up again, and we're going to click on the new screencast button. All right, hey, there I am. There I am down about. Now again, I don't have to leave myself in here. That's totally optional. I can come here and decide whether or not I want to include the camera. If I say off, there won't be a camera there. If I say front, it's my front-facing camera there. I'll go ahead and leave it on for now, but we can certainly, you don't have to have that on there. And then the microphone as well. I will keep the mic on, of course, for this example. And then this is really optional, whether you want to show clicks and keys. Basically, if you're typing or you're clicking on the screen, it'll emphasize those and show that you are clicking or what it is you're typing. I don't think I'll be doing a lot of that in this example, so it probably won't make a big difference there. Really, the only choice I would have would be, do I want to do the entire screen or just a part of it? I'd say probably just a part of the screen. I don't think I need to record everything. I probably just need, maybe a section like this where I can see the dates at the bottom and I can see the effect of the glacier retreating. And I probably would move my camera a little bit out of the way, maybe put myself up in the top corner there. And that's it. If I hit start recording or record video, it's going to begin. So let's do that. Give that a moment to do the countdown. All right, and now it is recording. So from here on out, it is recording my screen. It is recording my voice. It is recording my webcam. And of course, I can talk about this. I can explain to the students. We'll pretend that I'm talking about the glacier and explaining how all of this works. While doing so, if we wanted to annotate, we could come down to the bottom, click on the little pen button down there. And if I do a right click, I can choose what color. I think it's red at the moment. That's certainly fine. We can go with the red pen. Now I can come in and I can draw on the screen and say, okay, take a look at this section. If I want to switch to a different color, I can right click and I can pick a different color. And then I could use that other color as well. And if at any point I want to clear out the annotations, I can just do a normal left click on the pen and it turns that off, and I can turn it back on if I want to start over again. Now, keep in mind, in this case, I'm just recording what's here on the screen, but I could, zoom out, I could zoom in, I could move to different pages. It's going to record whatever falls within this rectangle. Now, I also mentioned that you can edit the video afterwards by trimming the transcript. So if you were to make a mistake, if you were to say something, oh, I didn't word that quite the way I wanted, no worries. There's no need to start all over again. Just pause for a second and then start that spot over again, knowing that later on we can trim out a portion of the transcript and it will also take out that portion of the video if need be. That's pretty much it. That's the main gist of it there. We're going to go ahead and click on the stop button at the bottom to finish that recording. All right. Now that's going to take a little while for that to process. So we may pull up an older video. If we have time, we can come back around to this one. But obviously, I've done this before, so we can grab one of my older ones. There's always a little bit of time involved. It's going to have to upload it. Then it's going to have to do the speech to text for the transcript. So that's okay. I think I'll just go down and I'll grab an earlier version that I did here on the Columbia Glacier, and we'll just use that to show what it looks like after the recording has been done. So we'll pull that one up because this is basically what you're going to get when it's all done. Now, this is a much older one that I did, but on the same general area here. If I hit play, you may hear me talking over myself, so I might pause that so you're not hearing me talking twice there. But if you scroll across, you can see, I think this one I used, there's the annotation tool as well, and blah, 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 blah. I'm talking away there with that video. Now notice over here on the right-hand side, and again, I'm in edit mode, so this is not like the end user. This is me still as the editor. I've created the video, and I've just opened it up from my Screencast tool. Down the right-hand side, I can see the transcript. And so this is what I was talking about. If you need to make any changes to this, if it didn't hear you correctly, no worries. You can just click the three dots button and say edit text, and you could fix something. If there was a misspelling or if it heard something wrong, you could change that. But this is also where, remember I mentioned about skipping things? if there was a section you're like, well, I made a mistake there. I didn't mean to say it that way. Then I started over again later. You can click on those three dots and you can say skip section. And what it does is it just takes that section out. And you notice there's now a gray bar here. So if it was playing along, when it gets to that spot, notice it's going to skip it. Here it comes and boom, it jumped right over that spot in the video there. So that's nice if you want to do some simple editing and trim out some portions of this. It's still there. It's still in the original. It's just not going to show when people go to watch it later. Now, of course, you can click on the skip or click on the undo for the skipping, and you can put it back in if you want it back in. So as far as your editing goes, pretty much that's the idea, is you can edit the text of the transcript, or you can use the transcript to skip certain portions. Of course, you can come up and rename the clip if that's more helpful, so that's not just I think it usually puts the date in, and so you can put in your own title up there. And other than that, pretty much at that point, you're ready to share it. And so that's the last thing, is there is a sharing button up here. If you give a click on that, it starts off being private. I've already clicked on this, but if you click share with others, what it does is it generates a link, and you can just click copy link, and that's it. That link can now be given out, and others who click that link will be able to watch the screencast. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this with a different screencast that I recorded on another account so I can show you what it looks like, because anytime I open this up, it knows I'm the editor. So we're going to see this from the editor's point of view. I am going to, let's go ahead and pull up this. Give me a sec to grab the link here. All right, and here is that link from my other account. I recorded a screencast in a different account and sent it over to this account. So what you'll see, this is how it looks for the end user who's not an editor. So in this case, I recorded this with a different account. So when I go to open it, you'll see I don't have any edit ability. I'm just going to watch the video. So, and again, I won't actually play through the whole thing, but if I hit play, you'll see.
Hey, this is Eric.
There it is, playing the video.
Quick demo video here too.
All right. And then over here on the right, that's where the transcript comes in. And so there's a couple of key things to mention as a viewer of the transcript of the video, and that is the translation and the search feature. So the translation is really neat. So the end user can come up here and they can say, well, this is great. You recorded in English, but maybe my first language is not that. Maybe it's French. I can click that and it'll translate that transcript into French or into whatever language. And I can come down here and grab, Spanish. There we go. And now it's in Spanish. We'll switch back over to English as well. There we go. So this is something the end user controls. That's not something you do. You don't have to create these transcripts. You don't choose the language. It's going to be up to the end user to pick the language they want. So they can watch your video while reading it in their own language. There's also a search button up here. If it was obviously this is like a 2-minute video, so it really doesn't matter. But if this was like a much longer instructional video and the student's just trying to find that spot that they need to find in the video, they can use the search feature. And we could, type in, like I'll type in Google, for example, and it's going to find anywhere in the transcript that shows up. You could click on that and it'll jump you to that spot in the video over there as well. So that's what it looks like for the end user to be able to play the video, translate it, and also search within it. All right, so that's the main flow there. You're going to launch Screencast, you're going to record, get your camera set up, do your annotations, afterwards edit it as needed, and then, of course, you can share out that final screencast as well with others. Now, a couple of notes I want to make about the sharing of the screencast. And this is sort of in flux at the moment. Google is making some changes with how this works. So just want to clarify something, that when Screencast first came out, like almost a year ago, there was a pretty strict limitation on how it could be shared out, in the sense that after you make the recording, and you click the share button, you copy the link. If you gave the link to somebody to watch it, they also needed to be on a Chromebook. So this was a very Chromebook-centric tool. Not only did you have to have a Chromebook to record the screencast, you also had to be on a Chromebook as the viewer. Now, That is still true today. As of just this moment, that is still true, which is why I am doing all of this on my Chromebook. But that is changing. So at the BET conference in England about a month or so ago, Google announced some updates coming. And one of them was, I think, one of the most important updates Screencast could possibly get. And that is they're changing this with a rollout of a web player for Screencast. Now, this is just like a picture showing it. I don't have access to this yet. This is something that's rolling out. But what it means is that you'll be able to take that link that you create with Screencast, and when you give it to somebody, it won't matter what kind of device they're on. They can be on a Mac. They can be on a PC. I'll be curious to see, maybe even on mobile. I haven't had a chance to see if that's going to be the case, but definitely, on anything that has a traditional browser. And so that would let other people than just Chromebook users view the recording. I think that is so critical, because for this tool, I think, to really get the broadest use that we want it to have, we really want to be able to say, hey, listen, if I create something with this, I want anybody to be able to view it that I wish to view it. So if a student has gone home and they're watching a video you recorded for instructional purposes and they don't have a Chromebook at home, maybe at school they do, but at home they don't. Well, that shouldn't be a limitation. And like parents, what if you make a video and you want the parents to watch it? Well, they're probably not going to be on a Chromebook. They're going to be on their Mac or their PC at home. And so good news is, soon, very soon, this web player is going to be rolling out. So I don't know. I would hope as of the recording of this, this is something we'll see in the coming weeks or months. Hopefully for next school year, we'll have that available. But as of just this moment right now, it is still something that has to be done on the Chromebook. Just wanted to clarify that and say I'm so super excited about how this is getting changed, and this will be much more beneficial going forward. All right. So that's the main bells and whistles of how the tool works. Let's go a little bit deeper into a couple of other things. So one thing I want to mention is that in the meantime, until this web player rolls out, what I have been suggesting as a workaround for people is, it turns out whenever you make a screencast recording, the video is actually saved in your Google Drive, and it's saved as a WebM video file. Now that WebM video file, that you can do anything you want with. And so until we have the option to share with people that aren't on a Chromebook, this has served as a really nice workaround. So for example, if I pop over to my Google Drive, here I have a folder called Screencast Recordings. And inside of there, I can see, any recordings I've made, there's going to be a WebM file. That's a video file there. And if I double click on that video file, that would actually play that particular video. And I won't. I'll pause that there. But that is the actual raw video from the recording. Now, if you want, you can use that WebM video file any way you want. If you want to share that, I could come in and I could right click on that and say, I want to share this, and I could share this video with other people, and then they could watch it. Or I could upload it to YouTube, or I could insert it into a Google slideshow. So for right now, I've been suggesting that as a workaround, if you want somebody to watch your recording who's not on a Chromebook, you can always just kind of go through the back door, and instead of using the Screencast link that you get, so instead of coming here into Screencast and clicking on the recording, here's the one we did earlier. It looks like it's finally done now. And going up to the share button, instead of just copying this link and saying, hey, use that link, instead of that, you could go into your drive and you could grab the video from your drive instead, and then you could use that to share with other people. Now, even when that's no longer an issue, even when the web player rolls out and everybody's able to watch the screencast, it's still nice to know where the raw video is. So if later on you're like, well, this is cool, but I want to do something more with the video, I want to take it and do something else with it, no worries. It's always going to be in your drive in a Screencast Recordings folder. You can go to the subfolder for your particular video that you recorded, and you've got access to it there. So that's helpful. All right, so let's now transition to the next portion of this chat where we're going to talk about, okay, so we now know we've got this tool. What can we do with it? If your students are using Chromebooks, if you've got a Chromebook, you've got this wonderful, powerful tool that records the screen and your voice and your camera, and it makes transcripts, and you can annotate, and the transcripts can be translated, and that's fantastic. So what sort of things could we do with it? Well, the very first thing we already did, I've just got a list of different ideas, but that's kind of what I did, making an instructional video. So when I was doing the time lapse and showing the Columbia Glacier, that's the idea, that you can use a tool like this to create content for students, to teach information. This could be for a flipped learning environment where you want the students to watch the video at home and then come in, and then we're going to do more in-depth things in class together. Or it could be reinforcement or enrichment. Maybe a student needs some additional help and they need to, hear the content again, or they want to move forward into some other content. So creating instructional videos is great. Also, as a tech person, I work with staff rather than students. So yeah, this is great for tech PD. If somebody, has a question, rather than typing up a long email response, I can just make a quick video, say, oh, here you go, let me show you how that works. And then boom, I can send that link off to them. So very nice for that. Having said that, though, this is a great tool for student use as well. So another thing I would think of would be having students explain their understanding with a tool like this. A lot of times we want to make sure, that students really do understand the content that they are learning. And if all they're doing is writing up a response, sometimes not sure. It's like, well, is it possible that the student copied and pasted that written response? Or, if it's a math thing, did they just copy, the answers from somebody else? Whereas if we have students speaking and recording themselves, we're going to have a much better understanding of, do they really understand the content? And it's not something you can just copy and paste. They're explaining it in their own words. And so using a tool like this would be fantastic. So for example, just as a very, very simple example, let's say I've got this Jamboard pulled up here where I've got a math problem. And so I'm a math teacher and I want my student to solve this, this two-step equation. Rather than doing, 20 or 25 of these on a worksheet, I just want them to do one or two and record themselves explaining how they solved it. That way I'll really know if they understand it. And if they don't, I'll see why they don't. So a student could pull up something like this. They could pull up the Screencast app. They could hit new Screencast. And then again, we're ready to go. Now, do they have to include themselves in there? Sure, if they want, but again, they don't have to. I mean, you're going to hear their voice, but if they, for any reason, they don't want to include themselves, they could just, turn the camera off, but obviously they would need to have their microphone on. And at that point, they could just hit record. Oops, sorry about that. Hit record up here and let that count down. And now the student could explain how they're going to solve this math problem. Now, yes, there are annotation tools built in, but since I'm in Jamboard, I would probably use the native ones in Jamboard there instead. So I might say, okay, I need to subtract a 3 from this side to get rid of the plus 3, but then I've got to do it to both sides to keep it balanced. And those are going to cancel out, leaving a 2x equal to an 8. Again, I need to get the x by itself, so I'm going to divide by a 2 to cancel out the multiplying by a 2. But again, you need to do it to both sides to keep it balanced. And so x ends up equaling 4 when we're done. Now, obviously, we could go on a whole lot more than that. They could check it. They could do all of that. But when they're done, they just hit stop. And that's it. They now have a recording of themselves explaining their answer to that question, or, explaining their understanding of something much more personalized. All they have to do now is, once that gets done processing, they can just give a click on it, give it just a moment to finish. There should be, that one was pretty short. I don't think that, there you go. So that one shouldn't take long. That was pretty quick. And then all they need to do is hit the share button and then say share with others, and then copy that link, and boom, they can now turn that in as an assignment in class. All right. Other things. What else could we use a tool for this? Like, well, how about narrating a slideshow? Sure. I've got a slideshow open right now. This one that we're in right now. I could, of course, fire up the screencast tool. I could say, let's do a new screencast. And I don't need to record this one again. You get the idea, but I could just simply click here to record, and I could start recording as I work through a slideshow and then create that video that comes out as a result of that. For this example, though, that's okay. I think we get the gist, but it's a nice way to be able to add narration to a slideshow. Other things, how about providing feedback for students? Let's say a student has submitted their essay and you want to give them feedback on it. Well, there's a lot of great ways to give feedback. What about video feedback, where you can just work right through their document, explaining, what they've done well, where they have some struggles. So let's just pull this one up. This is the classic George Washington report that I use for every time I do a training on any of these sort of things. And let's say the student has turned this in and now I want to give them feedback on it. No worries. I could just pull up my my screencast tool, hit new screencast. Probably would not include my camera. If I'm doing that, probably that would just get in the way a little bit. But there we go. Go ahead and click record. Give that a moment to start. And now it's recording the screen and my voice, and I can be talking to the student saying, hey, thanks so much for submitting this. Couple of things I want to point out. And so maybe I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk about how they've got some verb tense issues, or they need to capitalize, some things here, or they've got some spelling errors. The point is, I can go through and I can be talking while I'm recording this entire process and, step by step going through explaining what my feedback is for them. Now, if I want to use the annotation tool, this would be a great use for that. So I could come in here for the annotation tool and I might say, okay, you got to watch out for some of your verb choices. You got the wrong tenses in these cases here. And so I'm just drawing right on the screen, and that allows me to emphasize those particular things as need be. And then when it's done, no worries, just hit the stop button. Again, give it a moment, let it do its thing. It shouldn't take too long for that to upload. But the idea is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that link. I'm just going to put it back into the student's document and say, hey, here's some feedback. So we'll let that finish up there, and I'll just do something like this. I would come over and I might say, let's insert a comment. And I could say something like, here is my video feedback for you. And then I just need to paste in that link. So it looks like it's done. It's still processing, but hopefully done enough that I can get the sharing link there. So I'll come up and click on the share. And of course, I got to rename it if I wanted to name it specifically after that student. I'll hit share with others, and I'll copy the link. And that's it. I can just paste that link right into my comment there. Perfect. And so now when the student goes to open up their document later, they'll have a much more personalized feedback where I'm pointing things out, and they can just play that video, watch it, and be able to follow along. All right. Other things, giving a speech or performance. Maybe a student is a little nervous about standing up in front of the class and giving a speech, or playing their instrument or doing a solo. Well, this can be a nice way to ease students into more of that by saying, okay, for this particular one, we're going to have you record your speech or your song or your instrument or whatever the case might be. And the students can then just record themselves at their own time and pace. And then if they mess up, no big deal. They can record again and again and again until they're happy with it. And then they can submit that in. And hopefully that will ease them into the concept of speaking in front of the class as well. Other possibilities. How about practicing fluency? Yeah, there's times when it's really helpful to hear our students speaking, whether it's younger students who are learning to read, whether it's an English language learner who's working on the English language, or maybe it is a English speaker who is learning a world language. Maybe you're in a Spanish class or a French class. Well, this is a great free unlimited tool that makes it easy to do that. So here's another quick example. Let's say I'm learning German. This could be a assignment I push out to the students where I say, hey, use Google Screencast to record yourself reading each of these words. And then when you're done, put the shared link down below and submit that back to me. Then the teacher can, of course, leave feedback here as well. And so that's what would happen. The student would come here. They'd go to Screencast, they would go to new Screencast. And again, whether they leave their their camera on or not. Totally up to you as to how you want that to go. But at this point, once it starts recording, the student would be like, hey, Mr. Kurtz, okay, here we go. I'm going to work down through this. And so for my first phrase, this would be hello. Next up, I've got Guten Morgen. Next up, I've got Guten Tag, and I won't go through all these, but you get the idea. So it could just be some phrases. It could be entire paragraphs you're having them read, but you're now getting the fact that they actually are doing the reading, but you can hear what they're saying, so you can play it back if there's any issues with that. When it's done, they just hit the stop button, and you get the idea. It's going to process that. They simply need to grab that link and then put it back into that document, and then when they turn it into you, you'll be able to pop open those videos and watch them and rewatch them as need be to be able to evaluate the student's fluency. Looks like that one's just about done there. So we should be able to copy the link. Not that we need to, I'm sure by this point, you know exactly how that works, but it does look like it is done. So we'll go to the share button and we will say share with others. We will copy that link. And now the student would simply come down and paste that in to the document, and they can now turn this in through Classroom or whatever tool you use, and you've got the recording down there below. Other thoughts? Sure. How about inserting videos into slides? I know I mentioned this earlier, but this takes advantage of the fact that when you use Screencast to record, it does put the raw video file in WebM format in your Google Drive. And so you can use Screencast for the recording, and then you can use the raw video from that to put into something like Google Slides. Remember, all these are always found in your Google Drive in a Screencast recordings folder. That's where these go. So let's say I'm doing, again, an instructional slideshow here on glaciers, and I'm talking about the Columbia Glacier, and I want to add that video in here. Well, because it's in my drive, I can do that. I can simply say insert video, go to my Google Drive, and in my Google Drive, I've got, make sure I'm in the right place there. Yep, there it is. There's the Columbia Glacier folder, and there it is. Yep, there's the video. Click insert, give that a moment to do its thing. There we go. And now that video has been dropped right into the slideshow. So even if you're not using Screencast to play the video back, you could use it to record the video, and then you can insert that video into slideshows, for example. Now, there's lots of other things we could do with this as well. You know, in that case, I was doing an instructional one, but it could be to add narration to a slideshow, to read a slideshow ebook, to embed a speech or performance, to show how to solve a math problem, to leave video feedback for others, to respond to a question or a prompt. So a really neat way for, you know, students as well to add video into maybe a class collaborative slideshow where everybody is answering a particular prompt that you have given. Good stuff. All right, and then the last example I have on here is kind of a fun little twist on all this. Another neat thing you could do with Screencast would be to dub a video. And so here's the idea. Let's say you have a video on YouTube that's not your video, but you want to comment on it. So it could be that you're in a world language class and you're going to translate the video, or maybe you're reinterpreting a story, maybe you're adding commentary on top of it. So the idea behind that is you could play the video full tab and muted, and then use Screencast to record it while you are speaking. So for this example, here is a video on a chinchilla, and this is a Creative Commons video. I want to make sure I picked one that allows reuse there. And so what I could do is I could play this video just as it is, or I could have it, you know, fill up more of the space. I could make it larger there. That would be fine. Actually, I think one of the easiest things to do is to have it go into what's called no cookies mode, which fills the whole browser tab. To do that, I know it seems a little silly, but what you do is you go up to the address and you simply add a dash after the T in YouTube. And if you put a dash after the T in YouTube, it redirects it to Google's no cookie. You know, I'm gonna mute that there. It redirects it to Google's no cookie version, which is basically a full screen version of the video without any ads or any comments or anything else like that. So at this point, I would mute it. I'd make sure that I keep the video muted. And then again, I would pull up Screencast. Let's say I want to do a new screencast, and then I could say, okay, let's start. And I would probably turn off. Again, I guess you could leave yourself up there if you want, but you certainly don't have to. Just depends if you want to have your floating head there during your commentary. But now I can click here to start recording. And now I could play the video, and while the video is playing, now I'm providing color commentary on it. So I'm giving information here while that video is playing. And when that's all done, of course, I'm not going to have my video version of that one with my own translation or interpretation or commentary on that as well. All right, good stuff. Well, I hope that gives you some good ideas about how a tool like Google Screencast could be used. Now, everything that we've looked at there, just as a reminder, can all be found at bit.ly/Kurtz-G Screencast. That takes you to that document. In that document, you'll find all my contact info, but then you'll find everything that we've looked at here. So nice detailed directions on how to launch Screencast and to record and to edit and to share and so forth. But then I've also got that whole section on ideas for use. So if you want to look at any of those as inspirations for ways that a tool like this could be used, those are all available there. But I would love to hear from you as well. Please let me know. How have you used this tool, or how have your students used this tool? Questions, comments. I'd love to hear from you. All my contact information is at the top of that document, so you can stay in touch with me. Other than that, I want to say thank you so very much for learning with me here today. Look forward to seeing how you and your students use this tool. Take care, everybody. And for all the rest of my educational technology resources, be sure to visit my site at controlaltachieve.com. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, sign up for my email newsletter, and check out my book, Control Alt Achieve: Rebooting Your Classroom with Creative Google Projects. Thanks so much, and take care.